Hello everyone, my name is Weizhou from the Interactive Media Lab Dresden. I'm delighted to present our work, Pearl, Physical Environment-based Augmented Reality Lenses for In-Situ Human Movement Analysis. This is a joint work with my co-author, Zhongyuan, Rufat Rzayev, Marc Satkowski, Stefan Gumhold, Matthew McGinity, and Raimund Dachselt. In daily life, physical environments shape our movement and behavior. Taking the museum scenario as an example, exhibit object can affect how the visitor behave and navigate through the space. To understand people movement in the indoor space, analysts can likely benefit from working in the actual location where the data was captured, as you can see in a simulated scene in our lab. In particular, considering physical objects as a reference can be the key to extracting and presenting those insights. In this work, we propose exploring movement data in situ by referring to surrounding physical objects as a region of interest. We designed novel interaction and visualization concept. We implement an AR prototype system and conduct an expert review study. Movement data, or spatial temporal data in general, is highly complex by nature. Existing works has already illustrated some visualization techniques to support this process. For instance, ex-situ systems on traditional desktop setups have been proposed for understanding how people interact with, for instance, public display in Eagle View or public disk spaces in social spatial comfort. More recently, virtual reality have been utilized to enhance the analyze process. For instance, to analyze video game replays in Who Put That There or analyze user study in real life. Mixed reality research like Avatar and Miria have shown the advantage of displaying and exploring information in situ in the original environment. Building upon those works, we aim to provide a solution by utilizing situated physical objects for analyzing movement data and support a coherent workflow. We propose Pearl, Physical Environment-based Augmented Reality Lenses approach. Here, we first describe the general design. Now imagine you are an analyst. Your goal is to understand human movement in a given space, like an exhibition room of a museum. This type of the environment typically contains several exhibits or objects that are of interest to the visitor, such as this molecule model here. When visitor enters the exhibition room, they move from one exhibit to another, resulting in spatial temporal data that can be represented as a trajectory. However, it is important to remember that this movement is affected by the physical object in the environment. Those objects can either serve as obstacles or objects of interest to the visitors. To help embody the movement history and make it easier to understand, situated exhibit can become the physical reference or anchor points for the analysis. Analysts can explicitly articulate the region of interest within the space, such as this cylinder you can see here. Accordingly, a lens can be assigned by an analyst, like the cubic wireframe. A lens represents and embodies the region of interest. It prepares the ground foundation for following functionalities associated to the physical reference, including interaction and visualizations. Based on those design considerations, we designed Pearl system. It includes three components: Selector, Filter, and Visualizer. First, Pearl Selector. It enables selecting a space as a region of interest for data exploration. It contains several natural gesture interaction, as you can see here, to define and manage lenses, the representation of the region of interest. Specifically, lens creation defining spatial values and represent the region of interest within the physical environment. Those lenses are embodied as a cubic bounding box and can be displayed as a full wireframe. Lenses can also be removed, select, and group it through the freehand gestures. Moreover, a drag gesture can be performed to refine the scope of a lens. Similarly, a body gesture can further allow for situating recorded humans' perspectives. Next, Pearl filter. It defines a spatial queries, which allow for reducing data complexity and refining data selections, in order to cope with the infamous spaghetti heaps issue of the 3D trajectories. Based on a region of interest, analysts can include or exclude the trajectories or parts of the trajectory through a positive or negative filter. Besides, multiple filters can also be combined with the Boolean logic operation, like OR or AND. For instance, positive filter will show trajectory segments, and analysts can immediately see the outcome of the filtering intervention as a dynamic process. Here is another example of using two positive filters in a logic OR relation. With this, we can learn that only two people have either interact with the monitor or the foot pedal based on those two trajectories. Lastly, Pearl Visualizer. It provides several visualizations based on the lenses and allow for presenting selected movement data in different granularities, from detailed to aggregated information. Those visualizations are classified into 4 placement classes in relation to the region of interest, considering data features and the suitability for multiple visualizations. Specifically, superimposed embodied view shows the aggregated magnitude information directly superimposed on the physical objects. For instance, here, 3D stacked bar illustrates the visit frequency of 2 visitor groups. Next, floor embodied view shows the aggregated spatial and relational information. For instance, for 2 color-encoded visitor group, floor view shows the trend of the location transition in terms of the direction and quantity. Likewise, sequence view summarizes the location transition of the individuals in a fishbone-like fashion. Moreover, pace view aggregates the average movement speed with a fixed width linkage in a heat map-like fashion. Lastly, approach view aggregates the number of the people approaching the physical object by placing radial bars around the region of the interest. Pearl Visualizer also enables displaying situated 2D visualizations next to the reference and the 3D spatial temporal visualization in the space for situational details. This allows for overview and detail, such as co-located view, with a 2D Gantt chart showing a timeline overview and a 3D trials and avatars for contextual details. To gain initial feedback, we conduct expert reviews with the domain expert in the simulated exhibitions. We invite 4 experts with diverse and relevant backgrounds, including curators, computer science professor, and human movement analyst. The review session lasts around 90 minutes, including a guided interactive walkthrough, an open-ended discussion, and a semi-structured interview. Participants were asked to think aloud, and the thematic analysis was performed by experimenters. Experts agreed with the mindset of the Pearl, as movement is always affected by the environment, and it helps data sense making and reasoning, thanks to saturating analysts in the context. Also, visualization were highly appreciated, such as floor embedded visualization, to reduce the stress of the raw data and to find the pattern. However, some perceptual issues were also pointed out, such as the attention switch between the floor and the exhibits, as well as the difficulty in precisely comparing 3D bars due to the viewing angles. In conclusion, we believe that physical reference have a great potential as it helps break down the complexity, further summarize movement data, and help interpret the original context for sense-making. With this work, we aim to enrich the repertoire of the method and the techniques for data exploration. Moreover, we hope this work inspire other researchers to explore this exciting perspective of using physical objects and the environment for interact with the immersive content. Thank you for your attention. For more detail, please refer to our paper and the project website.